Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going over a few single stage trigger offerings available for the AR-15 platform. Just real quickly, if you don't know the difference between a single stage trigger and a two-stage trigger, I will demonstrate first here on my IWI Zion 15, which has the Geissele SSP trigger in it. A two-stage trigger has just kind of what it sounds like. It has two stages. You have the first stage, which is, you could call it take up, where you have to pull the trigger in to hit a wall before the hammer will actually pull. The hammer will actually drop. Obviously, as you can see here, the first stage has a bit more travel, whereas the second one has much less. With a single stage trigger, you do not have that. Single stage trigger, you see, there is no wall. It's just ready to fire. So for me, my philosophy behind the preference for a single stage trigger is if you're in a high stress situation where you're going to have to defend yourself, your loved ones, or some innocent person. I don't want my finger on the trigger. I don't want to have to worry about pushing through a first stage before finally breaking the trigger. So I just want to be able to, when I'm committed, put my finger in the trigger well, squeeze off the trigger and let the hammer fall. Another difference between the two is where a single stage trigger has one defined weight for the trigger weight pull. A two-stage trigger has two stages, or two pull weights. You have a pull weight for the first stage, you have a pull weight for the second stage, which the second stage is typically lighter than the first stage. This weekend I took the IWI Zion out. I hadn't shot it in a long time, and I went through some rounds. Filming my hands-on rounds through review of the Huxworks Blasphemy. Got to push up some rounds for the Zion 15, and I have to say that even though that has a two-stage in it, it is a very fast trigger. I know single stage triggers are also considered typically be faster, but before I get into too much into trigger weights, I can tell you at least the Geissele SSP, but the combined weight between the two stages is less than a couple of the other single stage triggers that I'm going to talk about in this video. But going back to the topic at hand, speaking of the triggers that I'm going to review, as I mentioned, this here I have a Geissele in this Mark 18. It's the SSP. I think the next closest one that we have, it's a contender for popular choices out there, would be the offering from Larue, which is the Larue MBT-1S. Now, I don't believe that they are making this trigger anymore. The MB2S was what they came out with to compete with the Geissele SSP. I know that historically a lot of people were very disappointed by the 1S. They felt that the 2S was a really, really great trigger, especially when you were compared it in price to the Geissele, which at that point, a few years ago, you were looking at $80 for the MBT-1S and $225, $240 for the Geissele. So a lot of people felt that it was a great option if you did not want to spend Geissele money. And a lot of people also said, why spend the Geissele money when you can get the Larue for a fraction of the price of the Geissele and get very, very good performance. Lastly, when we go over here is the Sons of Liberty Gunworks Liberty trigger. This here I got in part of a blaster guts kit for this build that I just recently completed right here, which is a ballistic advantage. It was a strip lower that I built up and then one of their complete uppers. But this is actually getting swapped out for another Geissele SSP, but this time the straight bow version. As you see here, I have the curved bow. But I went ahead and put this in here just because it's so easy to swap out with ARs anyways, and I wanted to just kind of get a feel for the gun overall. But these are the three triggers that I'm going to talk about today in today's video. Each one comes in at different price points, and each one has different characteristics along with their pull weight. So the first trigger that I'm going to take a look at is the SOLGW Liberty Gunworks Liberty Fighting trigger. It is the least expensive of the bunch. I want to say that it goes anywhere from $60 to $70, though I recently have seen some sales for them going for around $40. So basically what this trigger is advertised to do is to give you a cleaned up or polished mil spec trigger. You see it does have the finish is silver versus, you know, black nitride that you may see in your OEM or phosphate, whatever finish they have. But it's a good trigger. Besides having a little bit less pull weight than a just a standard mil spec trigger, it is also advertised to have take some of the grittiness out of a mil spec trigger, a cleaner break, and a little bit cleaner reset as well. So I've only put this in here last night. I've just dry fired it a few times, and I will say that it is, you know, it is not a bad trigger at all. You know, especially for the money, $60, $70 is a huge improvement over your standard mil spec trigger. Not only just in feel, but I want to say the pull weight for a mil spec trigger ranges between 7, 8, maybe even up to 9 pounds. I am going to go ahead and use my Wheeler trigger pull gauge here and go through some pull weights. So for every single trigger pull weight I'm going to have, or I'm going to do in this video, I am going to go ahead and put it in the middle of the trigger. I have to do it off camera because the gauge pulls too far down. Maybe it doesn't. Let me get a little bit of it. So, first pull, a little over 6 pounds. Pull number 2. That had to be a fluke because it was way over 8 pounds. A little over 6.5 pounds. Just maybe a hair over 6 pounds. So you have with this the SOLGW Liberty Gunworks Liberty Fighting trigger, you have a little over 6 pound pull. Overall, the way that it feels, you see, single stage, there is a little bit of take up, just a hair. I don't know if I can capture it on camera so well. You see there a little bit of wiggle room before it breaks. Check that reset. Very positive reset. There's that little bit of wiggle before it breaks. Again, one more time with the reset. And one last time with the trigger pull. See a little bit of creep before the hammer breaks. Next up, I'm going to be taking a look over the Larue MBT-1S. So like I mentioned before, the Larue MBT-1S, while I don't think it's no longer in production, it is still a very well regarded trigger in the community overall. You see here, you can tell it's a Larue with the big L on there. One of the physical differences is that the front face of the trigger is a lot wider than the other ones, which gives you a little bit more positive feel on the trigger itself. Maybe even helps make it feel like the trigger pull is lighter than what it is, or at least it's lighter to pull through. The Larue trigger comes with 2 different springs. One's a lighter spring, one's a heavier spring. In this gun here, I do have it with the lighter spring. Going through some of the feel of it, as you see, a little bit of creep, and then pull. Look at that take, reset, very positive, a little bit of wiggle room, and break. One time looking at the reset, and break. So let's do a couple of pull weight tests on this. You got a little under 4.5 pounds. Again, a hair under 4.5 pounds. Three times the charm. And a little bit less than 4.5 pounds. So as you guys see, it is about 1.5 pounds lighter than the Sons of Liberty Gunworks Liberty Fighting trigger. It is also priced differently. While the Sons of Liberty Gunworks trigger, like I mentioned, goes between $60 and $70, the Larue, which doesn't seem like you can buy anyways, but they were always the same price as the MBT-1S. These are going for $100. I know when I bought this back in 2020, I want to say it was $79.95. So a bit of improvement. I will say that the little bit of creep that you have before you hit the wall of the trigger, there's more of it on this than there is on the Sons of Liberty Gunworks trigger. So lighter pull, a little bit more creep that you have to take up, but still very, very good trigger. Lastly, I want to go back into the Geissele SSP. You know, as far as standard AR triggers, Geissele has to be widely regarded as the best of the best. It's the baseline. You know, usually you see them on the forums and some of the gun groups. Somebody give me a trigger recommendation, and the majority of people will tell you Geissele. So I do agree with that. Well, I do have this SSP and then the SSE AE that is in my Zion 15, along with the Strapo SSP coming. I can tell you that between any other trigger there that I have felt, and it's not a broad array of triggers out there. You know, I have the Larue, I have mil-spec triggers. I did buy one of Aim Surplus's cassette type drop-in triggers at one point to use in my 1522. I hear rumor that they're made by Rise Armament, but that I can't confirm. But Geissele's, they are the best feeling triggers to me personally. We do really like this SSP. Going into looking at the take up that we have on this, make sure the gun is charged. Once the gun is charged, there's absolutely zero creep. As you saw, the trigger broke very easily, but no wiggle room whatsoever. Let's check out that reset. No creep. Nice clean break. Reset. Break. So let's go into the pull weights on the Geissele SSP. It's going to be a little lighter than that. A little over 3 pounds. Almost right at 3 pounds. Almost right at 3 pounds again. I know a lot of people out there will feel that having a 3 pound, 3.25 pound trigger is just way too light for a combat rifle or home defense gun, and I could definitely see that being an agreeable opinion. It is very light, but going back to why I prefer the single stage triggers is, I don't want to have to fight through one stage and then a second one, though it's not much of a fight. It's just when I'm committed, when I decide that I am going to commit to pull the trigger, um, I just want it to pull. I don't want to have to go through one stage and then another stage, uh, potentially pulling my gun off of target. And also when it comes to having a lighter weight, having a lighter weight gives you more stability, at least for me. And again, if I am having sights on a target or a potential attacker, and it comes to the point where I'm letting my finger enter the trigger guard and rest on the trigger, I want it to be a lighter trigger. You go into I was at range this weekend, and I was going through run some rounds through the Mark 18, and to me, it did not feel like it was too light at all. Now, I get it that during a, let's say, home invasion scenario or a defense scenario, adrenaline is going to be absolutely pumping through your veins, and you could have a 10-pound trigger and you probably won't even notice it. But um, a lot of counterpoints could be made. But getting back to the point of this video is the comparison between the three different single stage triggers. um, what's right for you. So again, a comparison or if this can help anybody out to figure out how much money they are willing to spend. Just going back to the price point again, the Liberty fighting trigger made by Sons of Liberty Gunworks is the cheapest of these three, coming in at $60 to $70. On sale being $40 to $45. The Larue MBT-1S, if you can find one out there, or if they ever come out with one, you can compare them with the prices on Larue's website for the MBT-2S, which is $100. And then there is a huge jump up with the Geissele SSP. The standard pricing for Geissele triggers, whether it be SSA, SSAE, SSP, you're looking at typically $240. The one that I have coming here tomorrow, actually, I bought it while Geissele was having a sale. I think it was around 40% off. Like it ended up being like 156 or 160 or something like that. So if you hold out and you find a deal, you can find them, a lot closer to the price of the Larue. Some people may ask, hey, is the Geissele, paying full price? Is the Geissele $140 worth more than the Larue? Well, that's hard to say. That all depends on your personal preference. Well, I definitely don't have any complaints about the Larue trigger. It's worth it to me to pay the extra money for a Geissele, but maybe not $240 worth. I will say that the SSP that I got in my Mark 18 today, I got it used with air quotations. Picked it up on AR15.com's equipment exchange. Guy said that it came brand new in his gun. He dry fired it a few times, but he didn't like it and was going back to an SSAE. So he said it was basically brand new, less a few rounds of dry firing. And I want to say I got that one for $150. So definitely, if you're only paying $50 to $75 more over the Larue, the Geissele is absolutely 100% worth spending that extra bit of money. So that wraps up today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and were able to take something away from it. Help you give you some more points or details into determining which single stage trigger that you may possibly want to go with. Please, if you liked it, please like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel. I did mention a couple of videos ago that we had broke over 200, and we've added another 35 on top of that since then, which is great, which I know in the grand scheme of things, or in comparison to other YouTubers, that's absolutely nothing. But I'm just a regular dude that likes to play with guns and gear and whatnot. So definitely appreciate all the subscribers that I have now. Appreciate all the viewings that I've had, all of the feedbacks and the comments that I've received. Maybe for the next video I will compare the Geissele SSAE to the Larue MBT-2S, because I do own one of those also. That's currently sitting in my Smith & Wesson M&P 1522. So that's all I got for tonight. Thank you very much for checking out the show, or checking out the channel, and watching my video. Take care.